God, I'm starting uni again tomorrow.
Right, guys,
Oh,
we're
nice.
live. I believe so. We should get serious.
Ready?
So welcome everybody to TOG Faction Chat, episode number 5, about Scoia'tael. So this is supposed to be our season 1 finale. I'm joined as always by my good old friend King Chess, and we have some epic guests. Would you care to introduce them, Mr. Jesse?
Yeah, thanks, Beardy. Today we're joined by two very, very special guests. We'll start off with our very own teammate and Open number 7 competitor, Miss Radu.andrada. Welcome, Radu. How are you today?
Hey guys, I'm a bit happy to be here. Just a bit.
Awesome.
Just
Awesome.
a bit. I mean,
Tiny
Just a
bits.
bit.
All right, awesome. And last but not least, our final guest doesn't really need much of an introduction. He's Mr. Gwent himself.
Who the hell is this guy, right? So, yeah.
no idea.
CDPR community manager, Mr. Burza. It's a pleasure to have you here, my friend. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. Just had a shower, came back from a bike ride, and I'm excited to be here. Not only happy a little bit, but excited.
Now that's what we like to hear. Awesome. Yep. Awesome. All right then, Beardy. Now that all the intros and stuff are out of the way, let's get into some faction chat.
Yeah, oh, of course. So we should start with everyone's history with the current faction, in this case, Scoia'tael. Everyone's favorite decks and cards since they started playing Gwent. So in my case, it has to be those like resilient Dwarfs. It just brings back memories and joy, and I just remember like all that excitement whether your opponent has a coral or not. So those were the days, I believe. And in this current Gwent, like it obviously has to be a Shoopy boy because reasons. Shoop can do everything, deal with everything, and it just works so well with ST because bronze is really good. But yeah, if I had to pick one archetype deck, it was like play a dwarf, buff a dwarf, I believe it was called. So yeah, that's that's me. How about you, Mr. Burza?
For me, currently, the one that I like the most is Scoia'tael Hyper Thin with all the Scorches possible. So Villain, Scorch, Shiru, with all the removal. Favorite one back in the day, I would say also Resilient Dwarfs, but Dwarfs, some people say, doesn't really count as Scoia'tael because Scoia'tael should be more connected to the Elves. So I would actually say that Mulligan Scoia'tael, like swap Scoia'tael, if it was maybe more power, like more overpowered, let's say, that would be my go-to deck. But it's still fun to play. Movement, I had a brief thing for movement, but that's also kind of a deck. If you can do something crazy with it, it will work. But other than that, it's also needs more power. That's why everybody's pretty much playing Shoop right now. So I'm kind of a little bit of everything type of guy, let's say. That sounds bad though.
All right, fair enough. How about you, Radu?
So I played Francesca Shoop. That was the first Scoia'tael deck I played, and like I stuck with it and got GM with it. So I think that's my favorite deck. I also played Mulligan Elves when they were a thing, but now they are not. So that's it for me.
All right, that's pretty concise. So how about you, King? Like, do you have something special to share, like Hailstorm item?
No, when I first got into Gwent, I started off with Scoia'tael. I started back when it was play a dwarf, buff a dwarf. During that season, the season where you needed to get 4,200, I think, to unlock Pro Ladder. I think it was 4,200, maybe 4,250. And I played play a dwarf, buff a dwarf up until I qualified for Pro Ladder. That deck was so much fun. Really enjoyed having like 60 points of carryover for the next round, and yeah, that was pretty good. I enjoyed that deck. I don't understand why they nerfed it. It wasn't like it was ridiculous or anything. And then I actually missed the boat on the Francesca Mulligan deck. I never actually played that because that was the next season, I think. And that got nerfed within like a week or two. So I never actually got to play that, but that was supposed to be pretty busted. But these days, probably my favorite Scoia deck is probably, well, it used to be Shoop, but it's probably now Fanderman's swap deck with Geralt and stuff. Just
Elias, right?
Like Elias and just vanilla Geralt and stuff. Thins to 0, has ridiculous tempo plays and things, lots of power. Really like it. The only problem is it's really bad against NG. Azir just is really tough for that deck. But it's a lot of fun to play. I really like that deck. So I think that's probably my favorite one now. But I got a place in my heart for Shoop. I do like Shoop as well. Shoop's really good. All right then. So now that we've got everybody's favorite decks and stuff from the faction, let's move on to some hot topics about the current meta with Scoia. So I think we should start with the biggest discussion when talking about Scoia. We've all mentioned it here. That's Shoop. Shoop's been carrying SD for a long time now, right? Since Casino Dwarfs got nerfed. That's another ridiculously OP Scoia deck that we forgot to mention. But yeah, since that got nerfed, Shoop's pretty much carried Scoia'tael, especially at the highest levels, right? It's very rare that you see much played other than Shoop at the high levels. So what does this say about the faction and the card, I suppose, in general? And will we see it in Homecoming? So I mean, personally, I think the Shoop decks are. The reason that they're so popular in Scoia'tael is probably because of how like versatile they are, right? Because it's a point spammy deck in general, because like obviously Hattori, Barkley, they're real huge point spam cards and things, but it also has the ability to do long rounds with triple weather, with Ida, Decoy, Vader Maker. So you can get lots of long range value off it. You're very good in a short round. You've got loads of removal for engine decks with like Thunders and Decoy and things like that. So I think the fact that it's versatile in it, which means it doesn't really have any terrible matchups, because it can actually win any matchup pretty much, I think is one of the reasons that why Shoop's done so well in ST. The other issue that ST has is that neither Elves nor Dwarfs are particularly great right now, following the nerfs to both of them, following the nerfs to the War Dancer, and obviously the nerfs to Casino Dwarfs. So I think the main reason is due to recent nerfs since Midwinter. Scoia has pretty much only seen nerfs, which means that's why I think Shoop's the only one that remains. What about you, Beardy? What do you think?
I agree with you, and you raised some good points. I would have disagree a bit. Like, I believe that Tailbots like Dwarfless became quite a popular one, and it turns out to be a quite good deck. Who knows? So that's one exception. But yeah, I agree. What makes Shoop so powerful, Shoop ST so powerful, in my opinion, is basically I tried to say this in the beginning. ST bronzes are really good on their own, and Shoop doesn't really have any bad matchup. So you have Marjo and replay Marjo and decoy Marjo and Triss Marjo to deal with everything green. Then you have a bunch of Thunders to deal with great do not run a weather player. And of course you have lots of points with Barkley Hattori, Pyrotechnician deals with soldiers, that's super easy. And if everything else fails, you always have Shoop to either charm or just do I don't know, as I like to say Shoop genocide against soldiers, which is just game winning.
For sure.
But yes, I think Shoop is just by far the best ST deck. So I think the main what's it called, discussion comes down to whether it's about Bruver or Eithné, because but joint leader matchups against Consume. So I think like in a tournament setting, she's probably like the wild card and better choice than like classic Bruver in my opinion. But yeah, I think like overall as the Shoop is it probably shaped the meta for a while, and like all those like great scores I believe in Pro Ladder were achieved by Shoop decks. So yeah, speaks about it.
Okay.
How about you, Radu?
So I'm gonna start off with the last patch, because that's the moment I think Shoop just became the only Scoia'tael deck we can play. Because Mulligan Elves were really good back then, and the patch just hit, and that deck was completely out of the meta. Like, it was completely destroyed, unplayable. And also another thing happened. You guys nerfed Henselt, and that made Hand Buff unplayable, because Hand Buff was another good deck that was played back then, and it was good against Greatswords, and it was good against Henselt. So you had a lot of reasons to play that deck. But you just you took out one good matchup for it, and that deck was like completely out of the meta too. So both of these decks were destroyed by the last patch, in my opinion, and Scoia'tael was only left with Shoop. Now, I'm gonna say something about what Beardy said, because I was pretty convinced that Bruver was the only leader that can play Shoop, but I've recently found out I was really wrong about that, because Eithné is almost as consistent as him with the Shoopy boy, and she's like way better in my opinion.
Okay. And what about you, Mr. Burza?
I think overall Shoop is good in Scoia'tael, because Scoia'tael has a lot of tutors where you can pretty much thin a lot better than other factions, and that's always something that I liked a lot about Scoia'tael. Like, you have cards which let you look for other cards, simple as that, so tutoring. And you have a lot of but Francesca with Shoop I think is even better than Bruver, although a lot of people think like Bruver is the number one choice. But when I was like playing with the deck, Francesca was just more consistent and better. But yeah, I think moreover, more or less, it's the utility that Scoia'tael has. So you also have a lot of removal. You have a lot of cards. Yeah, pretty much a lot of thinning, and I think that's the major one for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I would have to disagree that Francesca's better than Bruver on that one.
No,
I mean, Francesca is possibly the worst leader in the game, right? She's
she's not.
She just lacks power, right? She just lacks power. But I mean, she's fine. If you need access to Shoop, then I guess it's nice. But I mean, it's so hard to find room to play Francesca, because she's just like a 7-drop, and it's just so low. But I guess that's a different topic.
Yeah.
So the next thing we'll move on to is we've got a question here about Bruver-Barkley combo, and how does that affect Scoia'tael? Obviously, that was a huge thing back when Mulligan Elves. It basically shaped Scoia'tael when Mulligan Elves was around. However, just by changing a few things in Scoia, the Bruver-Barkley combo seemed to disappear to a large extent, right? Without actually nerfing it at all. So I guess we should touch upon this and say why. I personally think the reason that this combo's gone is not because it isn't still super strong, but mainly because Barkley's pretty much carrying Scoia as a whole on his own, and if he's only able to pull Cleaver, it makes Barkley lose a lot of strength. The fact that Barkley, you need to only run Bruver if you're going to run the Bruver-Barkley combo, and then you lose out on the fact of being able to play Barkley again with Hattori and Decoy and Shoop bouncing it and stuff. So I think that's the main reason, right? Because there are no other like we've just touched on with the Shoop, there's not a lot of other viable ST decks right now, and the ones that are viable need to abuse Barkley as much as possible to get as much value as they can. So I think that's the main reason. I still think the Bruver-Barkley combo is really, really strong. There are some decks that can use it. I know people do still use it from time to time in some very tournament style decks and things. But yeah, I think that's the main reason. What about you, Beardy? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, to be honest, I really hate that combo even today. But back in the day, it was really hard to beat because Bruver could play a spy, and then even if you won coin, you couldn't you actually effectively lost coin, and if you were on blue, then you lost the game or a card effectively. So that was just like a really tough time to play. So I don't know. I really miss Cleaver when he was just like a neutral lock. Like I don't know why it was changed, to be honest. But in today's meta, like I don't believe Cleaver or that like Bomber combo is seeing much play. Yeah, probably because like Bruver can't play Spy, which was like the biggest nerf to that archetype overall, and then followed by all those nerfs to Elves and whatnot. But still, Bruver-Barkley combo in Shoop is still very strong, and as you said before, Chelsea, Shoop deck is practically built around replaying that combo as many times as possible. Thus, you're running decoy, and Shoop is effectively another decoy, right? So that combo is still the best. And I would say Barkley is probably the best card out of those equivalents. You have, I guess you can say Skull is even better, but compared to Stennis and what's the monster one, Marylon, I would still say the Barkley is the best one. But yeah, that's my opinion.
Awesome. And what about you, Andrada? Have you got any thoughts and stuff on this topic?
So, for me, Barkley is just another gold. I can consider him gold. He's insane. I never played the Barkley Cleaver combo. I hated it. I thought it was really wrong, and I just didn't use it at all. I was trying to play around it, but it still hurts. Even now, if someone plays Bruver into that combo, it's insane. It just loses your card. Mm-hmm. So I think it was broken, and I'm quite glad that's not played anymore. I know you lose a lot of value on Barkley, but I don't think it matters if it gets your card. So,
funny thing is neutral is effectively the same, but it's a factional card, whereas Cleaver is a neutral one, but it's just ST, which is quite hilarious. Quite hilarious.
Okay. And Mr. Burza, what's your thoughts on this combo? This hated combo by the signs of it. Everyone else dislikes it. What are your thoughts?
I think it's always been somewhat broken because the amount of points it can generate you is crazy, and when you could actually go for the spy and then you had the Cleaver to remove the spy, it was pretty much free card advantage. So that was broken. So we jumped very quickly onto that to get it out of the game. But I think Nithril is still always going to be a worse Cleaver for me. Just to touch upon that. And I'm just happy that Barkley isn't going to have this ability in Homecoming. So, yay, good stuff.
Awesome. So what is Barkley going to do in Homecoming?
Give me a second, I'll let you know. I'm just checking right now. Of course, he'll be a gold if I remember correctly, because he used to be... Where's Barkley?
He's already a gold, right? So what's he...
He boosts an ally by 1 for each allied dwarf.
Okay, so a bit like Cranberry is, kind of.
In a way, but he just boosts an ally by 1 for each allied dwarf. So if you have a big board full of dwarves on your side, it pretty much gives a big boost. And he still synergizes with dwarves, which was pretty much the idea for him to be, because he's important for the faction and he's always been considered someone who is leading the dwarves in some way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like maybe a swarm dwarf archetype as opposed to swarm elves.
Yeah.
This time.
Swarm dwarves probably will be a thing.
Okay, it's good to know. All right then. So that leads us on to a really good question here. Dwarfs or elves? Which does everybody prefer? What are your favorite archetypes from the dwarf and elves? Now, I'm going to start off with probably a controversial one here and say I much prefer dwarfs. I really not a massive fan of elves, to be honest. Never really got on with the Nova swap deck. Never really played that Francesca broken stuff when that was around. And I've always played dwarfs. I actually really like Casino Dwarfs. I may be one of the very few people that like Casino Dwarfs, but I was a big fan of Casino Dwarfs. How about you, Andrada? What's your? I can guess, but what's your choice on this one?
Well, I'm not like Saskia. I'm more into elves. I just prefer elves. Like I always play elves.
Okay. And what's your favorite elf deck?
I already said it. It's the Mulligan one.
Okay. Okay. And Burza, I'm pretty sure we all know your opinion on this one as well.
I've been split for most of the time. Like I used to play a lot of dwarves, but then I switched to elves, and Elven Mercenary is a card that will always be in my heart, which I think is awesome. So I would always like pick elves over dwarves, specifically because Jorvid. I mean, come on.
Okay.
The best.
For sure. And Mr. Beardy.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you ask anyone, like, like, whether he's gonna choose, like, pointy ear heads or just, like, dwarfs, I think it's obvious choice, like, just, like, from the low perspective, like, you know, like, beards and beers, like, what else would a guy want? So, yeah, I vote for those, like, sturdy boys and with big beards, right? So, yeah.
Awesome.
No doubt.
So we're split down the middle on that one. That's good to know.
Yeah.
So, all right then, Mr. Beardy. Now that we've got all of that out of the way, do you want to move on to some viewer questions?
Yes, there seems to be a lot of text, so let's try to see question number one. It's coming from our fellow TLG team member, Mr. Netherwold. I remember a time where people, I'm looking at you, King Chess, LOL, were laughing at me, calling me crazy for playing Scoia'tael on Pro Ladder. Now, since Shimmeria Casper reached 1400 plus with ST last pro season, is it finally time to put down your crown? Right, so basically he's asking whether, like, what are our thoughts on Scoia'tael archetype, and like, special question for Burza, will Scoia'tael be alive after Homecoming? So I never really played Scoia'tael, like, never, like, at least, like, competitively, so I can't really say much about this archetype. Like, I personally think it's, like, weak, but I know some players, like, reached really high scores, and I know that, like, Adjikov is, like, a firm believer in spell, and he's just, like, crazy good with it. But, like, I'm always happy when I'm facing that deck because they don't have a spy, and, like, I can always deal with green. So, like, I think deck is I can't say it's bad, but it's just, like, nowhere close to those good decks. So simple as that, to be honest. But yeah, so Mr. Burza, could you care to answer this specific question?
If it will be a thing after Homecoming, I think I don't think so, because the way Scoia'tael is right now is pretty much like, Scoia'tael is the only deck that I think I play the least, and I think I never considered it to be, like, super good. But after Homecoming, like, for sure it won't be a thing. Like, even looking at the cards, like, you will have cards that buff and, like, hand buff in hand, but having units that get buffs depending on the amount of spells you play won't really be a thing after Homecoming. So that's a no.
Sad news for Mr. Netherwold. Right, so how about you, Radu? Have you ever tried that deck and archetype?
So I played the Scoia'tael, but I've got a little bit of a problem because I just can't stand being bled. and I just go nuts because I don't have a spy. So there's quite a difference between Scoia'tael and Foltest, because I actually like Foltest and I can play Foltest, because with Foltest you don't have to dry pass in round 1. You can play round 1 and win it down a card, which is absolutely okay if you lose coin. But with Scoia'tael you usually just dry pass, and the dry pass just means you're gonna lose a card. You're not gonna lose a card, but you're just gonna be bled in round 2, which just like is not a thing for me, because like I can't do that. I will hero pass with 10 cards in hand because I'm just upset. So
well. Right, and finally, Mr. King, what are your thoughts? And do you believe that Scoia'tael is the one to conquer? I mean, I guess it's over. So yeah.
Yeah. So me and I had this discussion with Netherworld when he first was playing it, and he was telling me, "Oh, you should try Scoia'tael, and it's really good." And he then went away and got a really good score with it, and like he said, a few other people did. Has that changed my opinion on Scoia'tael? No, I still think Scoia'tael's low tier 2, I guess. Like it's good enough to get decent scores, but I mean Beardy got what 1460 with Death Wish, and it doesn't mean Death Wish is any good, right? Like
come on, dude, Death Wish is better than Scoia'tael.
I mean Scoia'tael's not. I think Scoia'tael's got a place in the meta. I definitely think it can be played. I think there's lots of things that it can do. It does have good matchups, but is it better than Shoop ST? Probably not. I think it's a fairly decent deck, right? But I just don't think that I don't think it's super great. It could be a good tournament deck. Because of the lack of spy, you can bring it on red coin, and then the lack of spy doesn't matter so much. And it does counter certain things. I mean, obviously, with the fact that you're running double compression, you've got zaps, you can easily deal with consume, right? Great Swords is pretty decent matchup for it as well. So it does have it would be a decent deck if you're bringing it to a tournament and it fits your strategy. However, I still don't, even after seeing people get decent scores with it, I still don't think it's a particularly amazing like a laddering deck. So yeah, my opinion hasn't really changed on Scoia'tael. And also, I'm not that sad that it won't be at Homecoming. I'm not a fan.
Remember that one time where we had this deck that consisted only of special cards, and then it was just
gold weather, right?
Yeah. It was just like it was weather everywhere. You would focus on removing almost everything your opponent had, and round 3 you would just play the dull bananas and win.
I mean, I remember when Swim put witches in that deck, and that was kind of revolutionary because you actually had units. That was pretty fun. Right, so we should move to question number 2, coming from somebody called King Chaz. I wonder who that is. So
it's probably a really good question.
Yeah, it's probably a really, and it actually is really good question. I'm thinking in advance how to answer it because it's a really good one. So people are saying Eithné was a huge problem for the game back during the Casino Dwarf beta, but CDPR decided to nerf Tremors and leave her untouched. Ever since, she has not been an issue. Does this mean CDPR was correct in its approach to the problem? I don't think so. I think Eithné's ability is fundamentally overpowered, and nothing's gonna change that. The issue is Tremors is pretty rubbish right now, so she doesn't see as much play as she did back when she would spawn a golem for every time you would kill what's it called kill a unit, so potentially 2 golems, right? But I mean, now you can use it for double zap, and double removal is not necessarily bad, but it just fits a few archetypes, mostly this Scoia'tael deck which we discussed before, and I mean, I guess you can use it for double Froth, which isn't terrible by any means, but it's kind of bad short round 3. But to answer the question, I believe the card's ability is just too strong, and it's just directly linked to the specials. So if any special all of a sudden becomes strong, the card just becomes nuts, and then the problems start, right? So that was kind of what it was when like Tremors was a thing and like those golems spawning, right? So I think card is still like too strong. It just doesn't have like OP spell at the moment, apart from Zap. But yeah, that's what would you like to add, Radu?
So I don't think Eithné is a problem right now. I'm okay with the nerf. I think the Tremors was a bit too much, like the 2 golems were just too much. Because if you draw Tremors in round 3 and even now it's like if you don't draw Tremors and you still have Eithné in round 3, it's really bad. So the golems were what made that card really powerful. And having the ability to play it twice was a bit too much. I think Eithné would be okay, but that definitely limits the design space for spells, because she might just get another good spell and be really ridiculous. But I think that that was the right call. Like, I completely agree with that decision.
All right. So how about you, Mr. Burza?
I still remember the day where we had Eithné Tremors, and I remember I sat down with the designers. I think mainly it was Ostre and Luigi, and I was like, "So you guys see what Eithné can do? Are you gonna nerf her?" And they were like, "No, Eithné is totally fine. She's not the problem, because normally if you look at it, the amount of points she can generate, even with 2 Thunders, is still okay. It's not that crazy." And you also need to have a target. Sometimes you might not have a target, or you might, well, hardly ever you get this where you don't actually have a Thunder because you used it because of something, or she's broken and she won't work. It hardly ever happens. But the biggest problem right there was the problem with Tremors and the Golem, because not only did you hit everything, you also had the possibility of having the additional golem spawning. That was just too much of a it was crazy, like a power curve. So they were like, yeah, we just get rid of the golems and problem solved. And that was pretty much it. And when they were saying it, and they gave me they started like counting the numbers, calculating it out, it pretty much made sense. I mean, that was the biggest thing. Other than that, I don't think she is very OP, and changing her ability to something different now would be kind of crazy. So the way she is right now is okay, but as far as I know, she also will be getting some major changes. Well, like most of the cards, of course, after Homecoming.
Right, and finally, Chelsea.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I agree, right? She's not an issue right now. She isn't an issue in the fact that she's not OP or anything with double Thunder, even double Froth, not too much of an issue. You can still run it with double Tremors if you want to. Like, it's like a Sea Hill, right? It's kind of like running Sea Hill, only you've got the ability to run Thunders as well. So if you want the removal aspect as well, you can still run it with Tremors. It just becomes a bit of a worse top deck, I guess. But I mean, Sea Hill's a terrible top deck as well. So I mean, she's still got some viability, but I don't think that's amazing. However, I do think that she's still an issue design-wise, but I mean, that isn't an issue because the game's getting changed with Homecoming, right? So if it wasn't for Homecoming, I would say that she would be an issue, and that they probably should look at her, because she limits what you can do with spells, right? Like, yeah. She was an issue when Player Dwarf Buffer Dwarf is a thing, because she was doing double Adrenaline Rush. The ability to cast 2 things is very, very, very strong. So I think that she, like, as far as from a design point, if the game was to continue how it is, they would probably have to look at her at some point. But with Homecoming coming, I think that the fact that they nerfed Tremors and didn't do a total rework on her was probably the right thing to do at that point. Because it would have been way more work to completely rework Eithné, and it wasn't necessary at the time, right? Nerfing Tremors was enough to stop the real issue at that point. As much as at the time I was really surprised they didn't change Eithné and that they went for the Tremors version, I can now see why. It makes a lot of sense now, and I think it was the correct call, to be honest. I think they handled it pretty well. So they're my thoughts on that now.
Right, so I believe we have time for one more submitted question. It's from our boy Ultra Man from TLG, and he wants to know what we think of Shoop, and why is it better in ST than in other factions, and since it's obviously like really competitive deck. And he mentioned that like lots of people despise the RNG part. This is also a good question, I guess. Like obviously Shoop SD, I would say was the like at its best when like you could play a spy, and since like Shoop's day off was the only special in deck, like then you would like just like find Shoop like super reliably. Right now, I believe like you don't necessarily find Shoop every game, which is kind of bad if your whole deck is like based around one card. And as for RNG aspect, like I don't really think it's that bad because like if you go for Shoop Hunter, like usually like at least like two options are super good and they're like beating average gold in terms of value. It comes bad if you go for like Shoop draw a card or Shoop Charm and you get like neither of those, and that's kind of bad. But in my book, it's like completely fair. Like if you can win a game by like charming like 50-point queen, you can also like lose by losing your like 10% or whatever the odds are of not finding the good choice. But yeah, Shoop is just like the best in ST as we talked before because ST bronzes are pretty damn strong. So yeah, that's me. How about you, Radu?
So I agree with you. I believe that Scoia'tael's bronzes are actually the best bronzes in the game because they work well even without having a certain archetype. So you can take one thing out of an archetype in Scoia'tael and put it into another, and it works just fine. And as far as RNG, like I don't think Shoop is that RNG, and that like you guys, when it comes to Shoop, you have to consider that you have 15 bronzes that are absolutely trash, and you have to work with that and have to draw Shoop to actually have a chance in a game. Because if you don't draw Shoop, you're pretty much just gonna lose the game. So when it comes to RNG, it comes to either or not you draw Shoop, not what Shoop gives you. Like Shoop options will pretty much always win you the game if it comes to that. Whatever you go for it. And I don't think that Shoop is that RNG. Like it's 60% to get what you want every time. So that's my opinion. I don't think Shoop is wrong.
Yeah, I guess that's like a popular opinion. So what's your opinion of this, Mr. Burza?
Well, I have to first of all agree that Scoia'tael best bronzes, that's for sure, and I also have to agree with the fact that it's RNG, but it's kind of limited RNG to the most that you have. Most of the time, you will actually hit what you need. There's hardly ever this thing that you will get something that you're not very fond of. Like the draw a card thing is so common. So most of the time you go for that, unless you have a high priority target that you want to charm. But if the board is like crazy, then you probably won't go for charm because you might get something that's not as cool. But Shoop was designed in the beginning to be a very fun card and just to let people play around. It was never thought to be something that's going to be super competitive, and like seeing it brought to a tournament. I remember when we saw the deck list for Open number 6, we were like, whoa, everybody's got Shoop. That's crazy. And we were excited just to see those, just to see him appear there and those like, because for like casters, when I was talking to them, they were like, those are the most fun matches to cast because you don't know what you're pretty much going to get. And if you get what you need and there's like a high priority target and you can charm it, it's just going to be like, the energy is going to be crazy. So they were excited for that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely good for the audience as well in those matches. Like, does he hit the charm? He does. Yeah. It's a roller coaster. So finally, what about you, Chelsea? We all know that you love Shoopy Boys, so care to elaborate?
Yeah, I really like Shoop. I think it's a very good card. I think most of it is very well designed. I think most of you touched on it. The one thing I would say is I do think that draw a card and charm are ridiculous abilities and shouldn't be on the card. Like the fact that Charm can just like you can win or lose you the game by like being 100-point swing or being like a 6-point gold, and it's just random on the board. I really don't like how swingy Charm is. I think Charm is way too RNG heavy, that ability, and draw a card is just, it's too strong, right? The draw a card in certain scenarios is just way too strong. The fact that you can like double card advantage when you're bleeding in rank 2 and stuff like that through Shoop draw a card and stuff. It's just like, if you think of like how powerful spies are and they're minus 13 points, being able to play a +4 one's a bit strong. But other than those two abilities, I think Shoop's like a really well designed card. I really like it. I like the fact that there is a bit of danger in the fact that you might miss on what you need and stuff. However, I mean, like we've all said, the Shoop Hunter is like 60% likely to get what you want, but I mean, it's 100% likely to hit something decent, right? Because all the options on Shoop Hunter are decent. So Shoop Hunter is like your go-to. But yeah, I think that my biggest issue with Shoop is the draw a card or the Charm. Also, the Shoop Genocide. This is on a different. This is just because I have to talk about soldiers at least once on every faction, right? Yeah, Shoop Genocide against soldiers is a little bit overkill. I mean, I like the ability. The ability, like it. The problem with that ability, right, is it's only ever going to be used when it's busted. Like, you're never going to take that ability unless it's like 50 points. Like, unless it's killing all the slaves.
But it's also risky. So if you're like a Shoop player and you don't hit the Shoop Genocide and you just hit like Shoop 25, then like the soldier player can like ignite you for huge value. So I think it's like
you get the jewel, right? You get the jewel.
Yeah,
for the
jewel.
But
like if you
jewel's
don't,
still decent value. Right? I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess you can, right? There is some RNG to it, but I mean, when Shoop Genocide can hit for ridiculous value. But I'm not saying that's. I wouldn't say that one needs changing it. I just thought I'd bring it up because it always feels bad as a soldier player getting when people realized that they could do that against soldiers. Because when I was first playing soldiers, people didn't realize that was an option on Shoop, and they were better times. Now it's sad. All right.
All right, so I guess it's time to wrap this up. I think this was like a really fun episode, and as I mentioned before, this is season 1 finale. We're gonna come back again with season 2 after Homecoming, even stronger. So yeah, I would like to thank all those guys who submitted questions, and of course, like our lovely guests, both Radu. Thank you. It was a pleasure having you here, and best of luck at the Open.
Thank you.
And Mr. Glenn himself, truly appreciate you taking time. We all know that you are a busy man to come here, so it's been really an honor to have you here.
My pleasure. Yeah, and then Radu, we'll see each other at Open number 7, which is coming very soon. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and my best Welsh friendo, co-host Chelsea. Yeah, always pleasure to do this with you. Anything else to add before we officially finish this season?
No, I just want to say thanks again to our two guests, Andrada and Burza. I want to say thanks a lot for coming on and joining us. It's been a pleasure talking Scoia with you guys. You two are both obviously very passionate about Scoia, and Scoia is obviously one of my favorite factions as well. So it's been an absolute blast. I want to just say good luck to Andrada in Poland for Gwent Open number 7. Go kick some ass and get the win. And so that we can see you at the next challenger, right? We all want to see you at the next challenger too. So no pressure, but make sure you win it all. And I also want to just say thanks a lot to Burza for coming on. Like you said, he's a busy man, so it's really nice to have you here. So thanks a lot for coming on. Also, is there anything you want to add before we wrap this up, Burza? Anything else that you want to say before we go?
Thank you for doing these. These are really cool, and it's like to see like all the faction specialists come on and say what they think about it. So really awesome for you guys doing this, and of course for being part of the community and supporting Gwent. And I hope you guys will stay because Homecoming will be great. And after Homecoming, we'll be making new stuff, which is going to be awesome. So yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome.
Right.
And Andrada, do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up this season of faction chat?
I just want to say it's been a pleasure to be here, and I hope I didn't bore everyone with my English. And of course, I'm looking forward.
English is great.
For sure. You speak very, very good English. I don't think you should be worried about that.
Okay. So I'm looking forward to the next Open. So if anyone wants to cheer for me, that would be very appreciated. And
awesome.
It's been a pleasure.
I will be cheering for you, although I probably can't, but I will be. So yay!
Nice.
Good man.
We're starting a fan club. If anyone wants to join, PM me. We'll make t-shirts and everything.
Awesome. All right, guys. I just want to say a big shout out to Serious Adam. He does our production. He's the guy who gets this show taken over and helps us a lot. Without him, we wouldn't be able to do this. So shout outs to Serious Adam, and also shout outs to Shadowplay for coming up with this whole idea, being the big brain behind the whole talk show. So awesome. Cheers, guys. Thanks for helping us. And that's it from us this season. We will see you guys after Homecoming for season 2 with some big name guests coming up. So make sure to stay tuned, guys. And that's it from us. We will see you in the future. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Castings.